Is your last name Serpent?
Yeah. Over the past couple of years, video games have become a prominent form of media in American households, and many wonder if violent video games have desensitized our youth and made them more violent and aggressive. I will talk about how games are today, how they are affecting the youth, and what we should do about it. First, popular games nowadays are no longer family-oriented, well, the ones that kids want to play. Games have more mature content than previous years. Sociologist Cheryl Olson says most young adolescent boys and girls routinely play M-rated games. Maturity games have sexual content, strong language, and strong violence. Even though maturity games are for older teens, parents are still purchasing them for their children who are under 17. A psychology professor from Iowa said, Brad Bushman says, violent video games increase aggressive thoughts in males and females. There are many children that like these types of games, but there are three most popular games that are affecting them. That is Call of Duty, God of War, and Grand Theft Auto. These three games, with the help of many others, are the reason why children are misbehaving. So second, I'll talk about these three games. Call of Duty is a video game that depicts war in a very raw and realistic way. God of War is another game that they have very hard sexual themes, profanity, and intense violence. And Grand Theft Auto is popular for its portrayal of violence, sexual content, and drug use. So another reason why kids are misbehaving is with the online play, like Call of Duty has online play. So it has kids can play with everybody from around the world, so they can talk about anything, and you hear older people using vulgar language and making very inappropriate comments, and they even make these inappropriate comments to kids. So then kids, when they're done playing, they'll go out and say these words. If children under 17 keep playing these types of games, their parents will see a dramatic change in their kids. There's a study that was done saying that the thoughts and feelings, there's a study done for violent video games, and the study said that the thoughts and feelings of the participants had a 74 to 87% increase of aggression. Aggressive behavior is shown in children because they are not mature enough to handle what they see in these games. Video games can also interfere with their moral development. Children's behavior changes because all they are playing are violent video games all day. So when it comes time for children to go to school, their behavior changes towards their peers and their teachers. It changes towards their teachers because their teacher, they become an authoritative figure. And so in these games, those are the people that you get rid of. So when children start to become unruly, and they start to treat their classmates this way as well. With the feeling that they can do anything, they'll start to bully these kids around because that's what they experience all day when they play the games. This behavior just doesn't stop at school, it also follows them home. Children will start to lash out at their parents when they don't get their way, or when their parents make them do something they don't want to do. Studies have also shown, according to another psychology professor, Craig Anderson says, violent video games have a positive relation to aggressive behavior. Maturity games have a rating for a reason. Children who are not 17 or older should not be playing them because, like I said before, they're not mentally prepared. Allowing children to play these will damage them. That is said that these kids are the ones that grow up to become criminals. And then so parents need to start monitoring their kids when they're playing these games. Not only monitor them, but they need to see which type of games they're playing to see if it's appropriate for them. So also to help them, parents should think twice about them. A lot of kids just say, oh, Mom, Dad, buy this game for me because everyone's playing it and I play it at my friend's house. So when kids say that, parents should really think twice about that, and then they should research about the game. Or when they go in to buy the game, they should ask if it's appropriate for their child. What also parents can do, they can make petitions that restrict certain content from being allowed in these games. So video game companies can start to make more children-friendly games. Because in the end, it'll just help kids in the future to be less violent than they are today.
All right, Karen, I thought that you had some good quotes that you were using on a couple of the issues. Toward the end, when you were discussing the issue of aggression, for instance, you did cite specific names and authorities to support that particular point. But in other places in the speech, there are references to studies that don't get named, or researchers who've reached some conclusion and we don't know who they are and how they reached or how they arrived at those conclusions, and that is not very convincing. It sounds a little bit like a persuasive presentation and not much like an argument. I think you do a nice job talking to the audience, and you explain several concepts for us that I think that's helpful, but there are some problems from an argumentative point of view. And I'm going to start at the very beginning. There is no claim or proposition that is the focus of this speech. If you look at what you said and listen to what you said at the beginning, you said you're going to talk to us about how video game violence is affecting us. Well, that's not a declarative sentence. It's a narrative at best, and it sounds like a description, maybe, but it doesn't tell us what inference that you're making. I wasn't even sure which way you were going to go on this, and that's a problem. You have secondary points that you do outline. None of the secondary points are phrased as claims either. I'm going to tell you how something works and why something works and when something works this way. And that's a structural organization, but those, again, are not declarative sentences. And the most important thing for making sure that your argument is clear is the use of the declarative sentence so that we know what inference you're making and which position you're taking on this. And that's a little bit problematic. Now, I do see that you signpost the secondary points, and there is some numerical signposting on those, and I think that helps, but again, there aren't claims on most of those points. The evidence, I think that you've got some information. It's vaguely referred to in several places. I did like the particular quotes that I mentioned before, and I think that you do a nice job, but there are also a whole bunch of claims that just get made without any proof on them. For instance, you make this whole argument that says that there's online play with a lot of these games, and there's all this language that gets used on there, and it has an effect on the kids, and they use it. And I'm going, okay, and where's your proof of any of that? Where's the demonstration that any kid read something online that he even repeated, much less it changed his attitude or behavior towards somebody? And I didn't hear any information that supported that contention. So I think that there are a whole bunch of claims in the speech later on where you just string some things together and you don't offer any evidence on those points, and that's a little bit problematic. So you want the secondary points to be structured as declarative sentences. When you make the claims in other places, I don't understand why that isn't the structure of your speech, because that would make it a lot clearer what your argument is, and you want to cite the evidence a little bit more thoroughly. Like I said, the best thing that you did were a couple of the quotes that you used. All right, thank you.